Join us on the Path Radio Mix online. And to get there, type in thepathradio.com. That's thepathradio.com. And enjoy free streaming music all day long. That's it. thepathradio.com. All right, now let's get to the main show, the monthly social podcast with me, your host, Guido Perino, as you go on with Guido. Welcome to the show, everybody. We got a great lineup here. We're going to hear from harpist and singer, our guest, Erin Hill, plus a couple of her songs, Giant Mushrooms and Eleanor Rigby. We're going to talk about the future of farming and how you can own a farm without owning a farm. Then we hear from Canadian artist Kelly Besd. Her new song is going to be played here. We're going to look at education inequity and what that means. And the four fans are going to talk sports and who are sports' biggest jerks. All right, folks, it's February. Let's go. But first, a quick word from one of our friends of the podcast, Johnny Prosciutto. Johnny Prosciutto, artisanal Italian homemade products. We make it like our grandfather, or as we say, Nonno. Naturally cured, old-fashioned, and delicious. The best part? We deliver straight to your front door. We offer free shipping when spending over $99. Order online at johnnyprosciutto.com and stay safe. And when you use the code GOGUIDO, you're going to save $10 off your entire order. That's the code GOGUIDO on johnnyprosciutto.com. I'd like to welcome to the podcast harpist and singer Erin Hill. She is based out of New York City and Louisville, Kentucky. She's had a #1 album on the Billboard World Chart and has played and sung with Cyndi Lauper, Kanye West, Anya Moby, Sinead O'Connor, Aha, Josh Groban, Jewel, and for celebrities, two First Ladies, and for royalty, she's played solo at the Royal Albert Hall, Carnegie Hall, and is also known as the pretty white girl who sings Dave's Thoughts from Comedy Central's Chappelle Show. She wrote the music for that sketch. Erin, look, I feel like I'm leaving stuff out in this intro. You've just achieved so much in your career and life. I'm just hopeful we can get to some of the other things today, and I want to thank you for being here with me. How you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm good.
That's good to hear. So I understand you base yourself out of New York, but your origins are in Louisville, Kentucky. So when I do the Google map, I got 800 miles that separate the two cities.
Right.
Are
exactly.
we live? Are we doing New York today, or are we doing Kentucky?
No, I'm in Kentuckiana, and technically I call it Kentuckiana.
Kentuckiana. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, it's right where Louisville is, and there's the Ohio River, and then on one side is Louisville, Kentucky, and then on the other side are some smaller cities in Indiana. So basically, I can see Louisville from my house, even though my house is technically on the Indiana side.
See, I was going to ask you what's the vibe in New York right now, but what's the vibe in Kentucky right now? Right?
When I left, it was really getting shut down with COVID.
Oh, yeah, COVID, eh? Wow. Yeah. So, do you find yourself more in one place than the other these days, or?
Well, during the pandemic, I was, back home and not in New York since there was no work. A little bit started to come back during the holiday season, but
Right.
So other than the pandemic, I'm normally in New York a little more than I am at home, just for work.
Right. Got it. But home is still home, right?
Home still, Kentuckiana.
I love that. I've never heard that, Kentuckiana. And I'm just trying to think back. I may have stepped a toe inside of Kentucky 30 or so years ago when we were driving to Illinois, and I think we crossed into Indiana, and I'm convinced that we got lost and probably drove into Kentucky too. So That's as close as I think I've gotten. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you from the Greater
Yes.
Toronto area, right? Toronto, North Canada.
I have spent several months in Toronto. I was on tour with the Lincoln Center South Pacific, and so it was beautiful. I got to spend time there in the summer and also in the winter. And then I went back for different gigs. So I love Toronto.
Oh, that's great. I actually lived north of Toronto, this little town. I shouldn't say little town. It's almost 100,000 people. Richmond Hill, Ontario.
Okay.
So just north of there. If there wasn't any traffic, I could make it to downtown Toronto in probably 30 minutes. With traffic on any given time of day, maybe an hour and a half. So listen, I want to get some foundation for our listeners. I will be referencing your harp a whole lot throughout our chat tonight. And I got to say, you've done some beautifully amazing things with it. To me, you've bridged different genres of music like pop and rock and classical, Celtic, jazz, country, opera. Like it just goes on and on. I look at your catalog and it's just amazing. And I got to say this, you've done it like with an enchantingly graceful voice on so many songs too. As I said in the intro, you're a harpist and a singer. But the harp, it's a bit foreign to most of the folks who are listening in terms of some of the, the guitar and the drums and the bass, right?
Yes.
But it dates back to like 3000 BC. We've seen it cross multiple cultures. Is there, and I got a few questions, so be patient with me.
Okay.
Is there a particular type of harp that you predominantly use? And what are some of the characteristics of that instrument?
Well, my main gig harps are Camac electric 3/4 size pedal harps. So like the big harps that you see in the symphony orchestras, those are full size harps, but my harps are 3/4 size. And also the harps you see there are acoustic harps and my harps are electric. And the big harps have pedals, and the pedals aren't anything like the pedals on a piano. The pedals on the harp actually change the pitches of the notes. So there are 7 pedals, and each pedal has 3 different positions. And so each string of the harp can be 3 different pitches depending on where I put its corresponding pedal. Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty complicated.
It is, right? Like we're not talking chord C, G, and D here. Like I got no pedals for my acoustic guitar. So you said a 3/4 size harp. So is
yes.
That's slightly smaller than the larger one that you're talking about, or?
Yeah, if you made a cutout of it, you made a cutout 3/4 the size, that would be it. But you can see my harps in a bunch of music videos that I made. So you can see them in practically all of my music videos. It's that same 3/4 size electric Camac pedal harp.
And so if I'm looking at erinhill.com, which is your website, right? Erin Hill,
okay.
And you've got some pictures where you've got one where you're standing with the harp. That's a 3/4 size harp that you're talking about then?
Yes, basically the only time that you would see the Celtic harp is well, let's see, I have a video of me singing and playing a Puccini aria, and that happens to be a Celtic harp because that's a live performance from a Celtic concert that I did. But other than that, all the videos are the bigger harps.
Bigger harps, 3/4 size harps, electric harp. Got it. Okay, so now tell us a little bit about how you got started, like with a harp, right? Like, was that your first instrument?
No.
And it wasn't. Okay, what was your first instrument then?
Piano.
Okay. And did you start singing at the same time that you started playing the instruments, or did that kind of come a little bit later?
Oh, I've been singing practically since I was born.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I've always been singing, and I also had a little Schroeder piano, and so I've been playing that before I could walk. So I've just been playing and singing my whole life, and then I started harp when I was 8 years old, and then other instruments followed. But yeah.
So, what brought you to the harp, or what was there an event?
I went to my piano teacher's house one day, and they had a harp. in the living room.
Ah.
And so that was the first time that I saw one up close. And of course, I begged for lessons, and my mom got me lessons, and it was great. I just loved it. I loved it from love at first sight.
I was gonna say, you just looked at it and thought that looks like a cool instrument. I want to give this a go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I understand that maybe you've named some of your harps, and that they might be linked to some popular shows like Star Trek and The Day the Earth Stood Still and The Martian Chronicles.
Well, you did your research.
Is that true?
How did you find that out? Yeah. Yes. My main big harp in New York is V'ger, and that's a Star Trek name.
Right.
And then my platinum harp that you see in, in my David Bowie Rebel video, that's a live video. It's also in, it's in several of the videos. But when you see that silver harp, that harp is Klaatu. And V'ger is ebony harp. Oh, and you hear in the background, that's Valentine the Westie.
Valentine. All right.
Yes, Valentine the Westie, she made her music video debut in my Eleanor Rigby video.
Oh, get out of here, really?
Came out this year.
Yeah.
And so she's in that. That's Valentine the Westie. And that harp is the harp that lives in Kentuckiana. And that harp is named Yilla. And that's from the Martian Chronicles.
That's awesome. So, did Spock? I gotta ask, because Spock to me, like, did he have some influence in the whole harp thing for you, or a little bit?
I don't know. Maybe. Of course, I love Spock, and so it totally makes sense that I would play the harp and Spock plays the harp, the Vulcan harp. But I don't know. I just loved them all my whole life. So Star Trek and the harp. So
that's awesome.
That's a good question. I don't know. It's like the chicken and the egg.
Hey, now Valentine is also going to be on our show. I'm going to have to give Valentine props. So.
Valentine is also a science fiction name. So Valentine is Ender's sister in the Ender game.
Oh, I had not made the connection.
Series. Yep.
Wow. Okay, you're very connected to all this stuff. That's kind of cool. So let me ask this: the harp, and is breaking into the music scene hard to do?
I don't think I've broken into it.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
I don't even know what that means, but yeah, I don't know.
It's
so hard that I haven't even done it.
Really? So it just comes, it's natural. You don't even know you're doing it. It's just natural. I was going to say, given the harp as an instrument and all the work that you've done with it and the recognition that you've got, you're extremely talented. I've been listening to all of your catalog, and it's just, I'm awestruck that you're doing what you're doing with a harp.
Thank you.
But I'm just thinking, does it infuse some mystery into the whole music scene as opposed to the traditional instruments and things like that? Have you had that experience or that feedback at all?
Well, it's definitely different. Because normally you see people singing and playing a guitar or singing and playing the piano,
right?
A lot, and it's just more unusual. But to me, the harp is beautiful and mysterious. And sometimes I see a video of me, playing, and there'll be some solo part that was live, and I'll be like, wow, what was I doing there? How'd that come out? Wow. So sometimes it's mysterious even to me.
Yes, and that's what I said. It definitely brings an element of mystery to it. Look, your harp, I said it's bridged some musical genres, but it's also crossed over into TV. And it did that for one of the biggest series ever in Game of Thrones. You were featured in an HBO promo, right? Playing the theme.
Yes. Yeah, that was fun. That was really fun.
Now, that's not your only linkage to on-stage and screen performances. You've been on Chappelle's show, movies. You've done several Broadway appearances. But here's what I'm wondering. Is the process different if you're integrating your musical talent into drama, as opposed to delivering a solo performance at places like Royal Albert Hall or Carnegie Hall?
Oh, of course, it's totally different. For example, I was in A Midsummer Night's Dream at Classic Stage Company, and we were all double cast, and one of my roles was as the first fairy, and so I played the harp in that for the big Titania's lullaby scene, and and that's completely different because you're playing and singing as a character.
Right.
So, and then when I'm doing my concerts, I'm just me. So I can kind of just do whatever I want to for the concerts.
When you're on that stage and you're doing the concerts, then it's you and the harp, but there's the audience. Is it you and the harp in the audience, or is it just you and the harp?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you ever lose yourself in playing it?
I don't know what that means exactly.
Do you ever become so immersed in the beauty of what you're doing with it that you kind of come back and you go, oh, there's the audience again?
No, I feel like we're all just there together. That's part of what's doing it. But I'm always it's transporting for me. So when I'm playing and singing, I do feel it's kind of like an out of body experience in a way, but the audience is right there with me. So I always feel like they're there with me.
Neat. So I just got to ask, because I said Game of Thrones, for the Game of Thrones fans out there, was there a cool factor that went along with that whole doing that with the Game of Thrones?
Of course. That's why I really wanted to do it. Was actually back home in Kentuckiana when it came up, and I flew back to New York to do it. So because normally I wouldn't have, but because I love Game of Thrones, I did.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of neat, and thought you would have had fun with that. And for Game of Thrones fans out there you go. It's a cool factor for Erin Hill. Let's talk, if we can, about some of your songs off of Harptown.
Okay.
Now, it's an album that can be heard on Spotify and other platforms. But here's the thing: you take us through a journey on that album. You make us perk up with "Disarm," which is a Smashing Pumpkins hit. Then you deliver "Dust in the Wind," a Kansas classic. You draw us in with a "Song for Someone" from U2. You take complete ownership of "Hallelujah," and I'm not even mentioning so many other songs on that album. They just take us on an unexpected and captivating harp and vocal journey. And I gotta say, I've heard of magic harps before, but I never would have imagined this type of versatility. What's your process for taking some of those songs that we all know, and we have, when you know a song, there's certain inclines and notes and chords, and there's a story that shapes them, but you shape it into your own story. It becomes exclusively your version of it. And you, as a listener, you kind of sit there and you go, I know that song and I know this like the way it sounded before, but this sounds really good and different, but I love it. So what's your process for doing something like that?
Well, you mentioned Hallelujah. So for the songs on Harptown, that is put out by Cleopatra Records, which is an indie label in Los Angeles. And we came up with half the songs were songs that I wanted to do, and then half were songs that they suggested that, so it was half and half. So Hallelujah was one that they put on the list.
Oh, wow.
And when I first saw it on the list, I just thought, oh no, everyone and their brother has a cover of Hallelujah. It might be the most covered song in the universe. What on earth do I have to bring to it that's going to be different than what everyone else has done with it? I just thought, oh my gosh, what? And so, but then I lived with it and I started doing it. And in the end, it's one of my favorites, and I really love what I did with it. So, and I made a music video for that one too. So, what I did with some of the other songs that I already knew, I didn't listen to, songs that I that I wasn't familiar with that the label had chosen. For example, I did not know that U2 song. Song to someone.
Erin, I would not have known until you told me that. The way you played and sang it, I wouldn't have known that.
Well, but how would you know that? There's no difference. Just because I know a song at one point, you keep learning songs your entire life. So,
but you sound connected to the songs, is what I'm saying. Like I guess
any song, there can be a song. I can hear a new song on the radio, and then I can go and start working on it, and then you make it yours. Otherwise, you're
craft.
Stuck with all the songs you know when you're 10 years old, and then you never know any new ones. So at any rate, I listen over and over and over. Just a million times till I feel like I just know the song, and then I just start singing and playing it and making it making it my own. I play it and I sing it till what's coming out sounds like what's in my head, and just kind of do my own thing with it. And the songs that, just for Harptown as an example, the ones that I already was familiar with, once I kind of know the song, then I try not to listen to it anymore. I go away, and then it's kind of inside me, and then when it comes back out, maybe it's a little like the game of telephone. Somebody whispers something to somebody, and then they whisper it to somebody else, and it comes out differently. So maybe it's kind of like that.
Well, I'll share a small story with you. I really enjoy writing and stories and things like that, of course. And one of my professors a long time ago said to me, when you're going to write about something, don't talk about it first.
Right.
live your moments and your experience inside of you. And you triggered this memory in me because you said, you know what, I keep it inside of me. And I thought, when I listened to Hallelujah, and I was interested in that because I was thinking, what is she going to do with the song? Because it has been done so many times, right? But then I went, wow, right? But it is interesting that, like I said, you seem to have connected with all of those songs. Now, I want to ask.
If there was a song that I hadn't gotten into, I would have said. Actually, there was a song I also did a Christmas album on Cleopatra, and there was one song that they picked that I said, I'd like to do a different song than this. And so I picked a different song. They said, sure. And so so every song on those albums I loved. If there had been one they suggested that I didn't, I wouldn't have done it.
Folks, they got to check it out. If they haven't heard it, they got to check Harptown out, because I'm telling you, it's one of the more solid albums that I've heard in a long time, and I really have been enjoying it. But speaking of albums, I wanted to ask about your Celtic album that went to #1 on Billboard. I'm always intrigued by Billboard. Did you know it was happening when it happened? Okay, before we find out more about Erin Hill and the Billboard experience, let's hear from one of our podcast friends.
Recipes at My Table is a work of family, love of food, and sharing of stories. The stories keep the memories alive and make every day a party in my kitchen. Join me for the sharing of traditional Italian recipes and so much more. Visit me at www.recipesatmytable.com.
All right, let's get back to Erin Hill and find out more about the Billboard experience. But speaking of albums, I wanted to ask about your Celtic album. That went to #1 on Billboard. I'm always intrigued by Billboard. Did you know it was happening when it happened?
Oh, no, it was a total surprise.
How?
Total surprise. Just got the notification.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess is the world chart. So I guess you don't have to sell many albums to get a #1 in the world music anymore.
So did you just get a phone call saying, "Hey, your album's #1"? Just like that? Yeah.
Yes.
What does something like that mean to you these days?
Oh, it's great to have on my resume. That's what it means. That's all it means.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice.
Did it change who Erin Hill was going to be moving forward?
No,
not at all.
It's just a line in my bio. Yep.
Okay. That's straightforward, right? Well, no, some folks are like, man, I made Billboard, this is who I am, and that, so it didn't change. It didn't change Erin Hill, is what I'm hearing then. So that's good. So we've been spending a lot of time here talking on harp and music and vocals and things. And one of your earlier TV roles came on a soap opera, and I gotta ask this. I'm asking for my mom. I'm sorry, because I would watch this with her. It was a soap opera called Another World. What's your fondest memory of working with that? Like it just had a historic cast of characters. Do you have any fond memories from that? That time?
Yeah, it was so much fun, and the first day that we shot, I had never worked on a soap opera before, and we did one take, and there were all sorts of mistakes, just ridiculous mistakes, so many that I was just kind of just going through the motions at the end, just almost almost just checking out, because I was like, well, this is going to be this take is worthless. And then it ended, and they said, okay, great, next. My jaw dropped, and that's when I realized, oh, okay. And so after that, sometimes I would just improvise. Somebody else would forget a line, I just improvise a line, and I was an under 5. So, but in a couple, I think I had more than 5, because I had, improvised to cover something else that went wrong. But, so that was, and that was fun, because I love improv. So it made it much more exciting. And
I think the character you played, I hope I'm not going to get this wrong. I think it was Annie. Annie was the name of the character, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I said this to my mom. I said that, she was like, I remember. my mom.
Well, I did stuff with Dean and Jenna.
Yes.
Those were the characters I was hanging out with.
Dean,
the only 2 characters I remember. There were some others I can picture them. I don't remember.
There were, so I telling you, my mom. There was Dean. There was Jenna. There was Matt. I think was one of the other ones.
Right.
Cass. It's been a while, but anyways, I thought I would do that. She's gonna listen to this and she's gonna smile. So thank you for that. But listen, you've also appeared and written on the Chappelle Show on Comedy Central. Now that's a lot different than a soap opera. How do you compare such vast experiences, even considering some of your Broadway work, if you will? Can you compare them in any way?
You want me to compare them?
Can you?
Well, acting is acting. So, and there are big differences between theater and TV and film. But, once you've worked in each of them, then, you get comfortable with them and you know what each one requires. So, but they're all fun. I enjoy them all.
The process for Broadway must be a little different, right? Like you're performing live, getting ready for it. Let me ask this, do you get a little bit more butterflies on doing a Broadway thing than you do like maybe a TV recording by chance, or?
Of course, because it's live, but on the other hand, everybody's different. Some people I know have stage fright no matter how, experienced or famous they are, and no matter what medium it is. And then, knock on wood, I've never had a huge problem with that.
I was gonna say, did you have any moments in like live moments at all, or?
I better knock on wood. And not any that.
That's me knocking on wood.
Right.
You know what? I've told this story before. I consider myself a music hobbyist. I only because I just dabble in acoustic guitar, but every now and then I do the occasional charity work or do a couple of songs at a charity concert. And one time I was playing the guitar, and it was one of my earlier performances, and I lost my pick. It went flying. I didn't have any other near me, so I'm doing
that was your first mistake. I always have tons of picks. Yeah, just tape them to your music stand or your mic stand.
I know in retrospect it makes sense, right? But here's the thing: the audience was so busy. It was like a mingle. They were so busy doing everything else that they were doing.
Oh, well then,
They didn't really
that's
notice.
Different.
They didn't.
That's
notice.
different if you're playing as kind of quote unquote background
yes.
for a party, or as opposed to a concert where everyone's silent, just
eyes on you.
Right.
So listen, I've mentioned several of the TV appearances you've made, but I'm sorry, I'm just going to mention this. You've also performed for royalty. And that was the Meghan Markle of the England's royal family and their baby shower. Now, for our audience, this isn't something that we're exploring further here, but I didn't want to ignore it because it says something about you. It says something about Erin Hill if you're participating, for the royal family in any way, and to be trusted to do something like that. So congratulations on that, Erin. With that being said, I was wondering something. Of all the various fellow celebrities that you've worked with, is there one that sticks out for you where you can say they were really nice, they were easy to work with, it made your experience a really good one, or something along those lines, something that is positive?
Yes, many of them. I'll say that Dave Chappelle is one of the nicest people that you would ever want to meet. He was just a dream to work with, and just such a nice person and beautiful human being. So that was just wonderful working with him. And then Enya was very sweet, very shy, very, very sweet. And I don't know, if you ask me about certain people, I could tell you, but in general, I've just had some really great experiences.
That's good to hear. I was, we spend a lot of time these days on the negative things that kind of happen in the world and life and all that sort of stuff, that it's good to hear that, when you're working with people, they're helpful and you've got something that you could take away from it that's positive, right, Erin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned a little bit earlier, last year, 2021, you released a music video, a short, Eleanor Rigby. It's also a Beatles song that you covered on Hearttown. The video has garnered a dozen official selections, multiple awards in various film festivals. Again, congrats on that.
Thank you.
And congrats on a carefully crafted and entertaining piece of work. For anybody who hasn't seen it, they got to watch this. The imagery in the video is very captivating, as is your rendition of the song.
Thank you. And I also would just like to point out, Nathan James Leatherman did the cinematography for the video, and Rob Tate did all of the animations, and he kind of turned it into magic. We filmed it, and then Rob made magic out of it.
It's a phenomenal video. Folks they have to check this out. I'm going to put the links in the podcast notes so they can get to it and watch it. But the imagery,
and of course, Valentine the Westie makes her music video debut in
right,
it, so,
and she made her podcast debut with us tonight too, right?
Right.
Listen, the imagery in the video, it is captivating, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the video? Okay, so at some point people are going to watch it, they're going to hear the podcast, they're going to look at the link, they're going to watch it. Give us some insight. What's going on in that video?
Oh, I like people to be able to watch it and just kind of be surprised and be taken to unexpected places. So I don't want to give anything away, really. I will say that there are nods to the original Eleanor Rigby video from Yellow Submarine, because I wanted to, I wanted to pay tribute to that in, a couple small ways. I'll also say that there are a lot of other people in it besides me, who are mainly friends, neighbors, and relatives. Okay, that was great. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I was wondering about that, right? Okay.
So, and I will say that the version on the video was released as a single by Cleopatra, and so the single version is Eleanor Rigby video edit.
Right, and
so,
I've seen that online as well. And it's on Spotify. We'll have the links to that. But we don't want to give, like you said, we don't want to give too much. Yeah. So just knowing that and the people, now people got to check out the link and watch the video and just really enjoy it. So thank you for that.
And I will say that we shot some of it in my yard.
Oh, no way. Really?
Near in front of the forest there, the woods next to me.
In Kentuckiana, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to call it that from now on. You see that? See what you've done?
Okay.
So that's cool. It was shot as part of it is shot in as part of your yard.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's a neat linkage back to that. So Erin, I have a wide range of listeners on this show. I do promote content for educators and school children, all as part of a learning tool for their development and their career choices. Keeping that in mind, what advice would you have for anyone who may be, looking to start their own artistic or music or acting journey? What wisdom would you impart on them?
The advice that I usually give when people ask me is, it's good to have a backup plan for a way to support yourself, because it's very difficult having a life in the arts and trying to make a living, number one, and then number two, to have something for your future, retirement, or most musicians, we go gig to gig, and
right.
You don't have a pension or anything like that. So if you can like getting a degree in something so that you could be a teacher, who knows, a grade school, junior high, high school,
right.
College teacher, that's a great job. Or anything else that you could have as a backup plan. And I know some people who are extremely successful and have been in huge things, but yet they still have another way to make money. And it's not necessarily a backup plan meaning, oh, if I don't make it, then I have this. No. Something that you can do at the same time to supplement it and make it possible for you to pursue your artistic things.
Thank you. So there we go. I always like to ask that because I think it's important, as folks listen and they start to decide, the different things that they want to do. And when it comes to the arts and music, I think you're right. There's a lot out there, and having sort of that, like you do, that mystery with the harp. It's that that uniqueness, right? So hopefully they'll take those words of advice and as part of their life planning, Erin. What's next for you? What's the next project? Is there something on the horizon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I am working on a new show and a new album. The show is going to debut in New York City in April at the Cutting Room, and then I'll be doing it again at Joe's Pub in June. It's my Kate Bush show. It's called Night Scented Harp, the music of Kate Bush, and I'm going to sing and play Kate Bush songs with my band, and I am making an album, Night Scented Harp, the album as well. There won't be as many songs on the album too because I get more time for my live show, but I'm working on that. Oh, and I have a Kate Bush cover on my Harptown album, a cover of this woman's work, and I'll be releasing a video for that. As well, in conjunction with the live shows. So yeah, I'm in Kate Bush world right now.
Now that sounds busy and awesome. Is the album going to be a live album or recorded album?
Oh, that's a good question. No, it's going to be a studio
album.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, just so I got this right, this is the album. Sorry, Joe's Pub in June, and the album to follow after that. Cutting Room?
Right, or it depends on when when we get the album done. Right. So I always hate to say a release date because then I'll always take longer than I think it will. But for sure, we know that the Cutting Room is April 25th, Monday, April 25th in New York City, and then the Joe's Pub will be in June in New York City.
I gotta wonder if travel will be back to normal.
I certainly hope so. Hopefully by June at any rate.
No kidding, right? That would be excellent timing. Yeah, if it all kind of opened up and then you could do that. So we're going to look forward to that. I hope that
my show was supposed to have debuted in 2020. So we'll have waited 2 years. to do it. So
wow.
so I really hope.
Well, good luck. Like, let us know. I'm excited,
you.
and if we, when you do that, if we can support you in any way, I hope that you let us know that we can, so we can.
Thank you.
Listen, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story and your talent and your life insights with us today. I've asked you questions to cover a wide range of people's interests, and but I also wanted to give you an opportunity. Sometimes when I ask questions, I maybe there's some gaps. If there's any gaps that you want to fill in as we close out our chat, is there anything else you wanted to leave us with?
Oh, the only other thing would be if I think that you're going to play Eleanor Rigby on the show as one of the songs.
Yes, I think we said we're gonna play that. Yes. Yeah.
And then I just wanted to mention the other song that you're going to play is an original, and it's called Giant Mushrooms. And Giant Mushrooms is on my Girl Inventor album that also is put out on Cleopatra Records.
Yeah.
And I have a music video for Giant Mushrooms,
cool.
And it's really, really fun. It's a sci-fi music video. So I highly recommend checking out the music video. It's a little sci-fi story within the video. So as the song is.
There's a teaser. There's a teaser for folks. But you're right. So you mentioned they're gonna hear Eleanor Rigby on the show today, and they're also gonna hear Giant Mushrooms, and then you're gonna give us the links to those videos so that everybody can check them out too. And and you can be followed on social media, right?
Oh yes, please do.
You are at
Erin Hill Harp, ErinHillHarp, Erin Hill Harp. That's what I am on Instagram, on Twitter, and everywhere. And on Instagram, there'll be a lot of dog pictures. as well as harps. I say it's basically harps and dogs.
Is now dogs or Valentine?
No, I have 2 dogs.
Oh,
yes. Edison is her brother, but Edison has not yet made his appearance in a music video. So.
Is Edison
soon?
I was gonna say, do we have a scoop here? Is Edison going to make a?
Oh, he will. We're not sure which video yet, but
right.
He will. He'll
again.
Every dog will get his day, his music video day.
Isn't that awesome? Well, we're gonna look forward to it. And again, another first. We're gonna look forward to Edison. Erin, thank you again so much. I said at the start of this that look, you're #1 Billboard recognized harpist and singer. But you can see, everybody can see from our interview today, you're recognized as an actor, a writer, a producer, and so much more. I will have all the links for everybody to connect with all of your media and your projects. We're looking forward to your show and following up on that. We're going to have your Spotify, your Apple, your website. You got so many things where we can connect, and I know people will. Again, thank you so much. We hope to hear from you again.
Welcome. Oh, great. Thanks, Guido. Bye.
All right, that is Erin Hill, and we're going to listen to one of her original songs from the album Girl Inventor. Here is Erin Hill with Giant Mushrooms.
Stars falling out of the skies, a little Mars brushing over my eyes. I knew he was talking to me. Yeah, I knew he was talking to me. Bacon in a skillet, lemonade in a glass. Here's something, boys, you won't learn in class. I knew he was talking to me. Yeah, I knew
That is Erin Hill with Giant Mushrooms off her album Girl Inventor. Stay tuned for later in the show when we hear Eleanor Rigby from Erin Hill. All right, so a really popular segment from our January podcast was talking about the 2022 trends. And I had a couple of tidbits from food and money and health and real estate. And the food one was kind of interesting because we talked about the cost of food and inflation. And there has been a bit of a trend of moving towards farm and farm engagement and buying direct from farms. We've seen a lot of, fruit and vegetables to your door over the last few years. There's a new buzzword that the Almanac is predicting or has put out there, and it's FarmFluencer. And a FarmFluencer is a farmer who promotes the farming lifestyle. So you might ask, well, how do you promote a farming lifestyle without becoming a farmer? How would I become a farmer without being a farmer? And how would a farmer influence me to do that? Well, one of the ideas is that they're renting out livestock. And they're renting out livestock to families so that their children can take on some responsibility and gain an understanding of what it's like to take care of livestock. They're also renting out livestock to other potential farmers who don't know maybe if they want to become a farmer. Maybe they're thinking about it. Maybe it's a student. Hey, I think I would like to become a livestock farmer. But going to school and making that full investment is a big commitment. So what if I rent some livestock? And that's one way that farmers are being farmfluencers. Another way is that they're inviting volunteers to do chores for them on the farm as part of a fitness, healthy lifestyle choice. So, hey, come to my farm and you could do a whole bunch of these different chores that I would normally do. The benefit to you is you get exercise you normally wouldn't. The benefit to me is that I get some help around the farm that I might desperately need. In doing so, I might be able to reduce my costs. In reducing my costs, I either have the option of passing some savings on to you or maybe even reinvesting into the farm. Farmfluencers. Looking out for your health, looking out for their farm chores. Now, when it comes to the future of farming, there's some interesting things going on there as well. We're talking about vertical farms, hydroponics, aquaponics, and greenhouses. These things are certainly surging. But what exactly are these things? Well, let's start with aquaponics. Aquaponics is kind of an interesting system that looks at food production and it partners it up with water culture, aquaculture. And really what it does is they take some aquatic animals, like let's say fish or crayfish, maybe snails, and they put them in a tank. And then you have hydroponics, where you are growing or nurturing plants in water. The water that you're going to use is the nutrient-rich water from the aquaculture, from the aquaponics. It's fed into the hydroponically grown plants where they can benefit from that nitrifying bacteria. They convert ammonia into nitrates. And so they're creating this sort of sustainable, more natural type of feeding system for the plants. But let's talk about hydroponics, because so I'm saying to you, yeah, you've got your aquaponics. You create this cultured, controlled environments so that you can create nutrient-rich water to give to your plants. But what is hydroponics? Well, hydroponics is basically the idea or notion or actually doing growing plants without soil. We know that plants require other things other than soil. You got to have some light and you got to have water, carbon dioxide and oxygen at the root of the plant. In hydroponics, the plants are grown in some other medium, which is a rock or some other fiber, and they're fed that solution that has that mixture from the aquaponics and some other micronutrients, if you will, but they're created without soil. And so you eliminate the need for that sprawl of soil farm, or the need of the soil by augmenting it with the hydroponics. Now, I mentioned vertical farms, and the vertical farms they can take advantage of aquaponics and hydroponics too. So if you can imagine, a vertical farm is when they stack farms, essentially, in different designs on top of each other. And I am probably not giving it enough design credit. I'm sure there's more around that. I'm simplifying. Well, you're just stacking farms on top of each other. But if you can just imagine that you're stacking these farms on top of each other. And what it does is it uses the hydroponic and aquaponic system and aeroponic systems, right? They're lightweight. They're more energy efficient. By stacking upward, you're not going outward. You've eliminated the soil. You're using less space. And it also, to my understanding, eliminates the use of pesticides because you're in a controlled environment where you're avoiding things like crop damage and fungal diseases and other things that might impact a crop in a more traditional sense. So just some thoughts and ideas around the future of farming. And as we look at our global population, the need for food, how we reuse some of the resources that we have, not put more waste into our environment, they're really thinking of some innovative methods to produce food that we're going to consume. The other interesting thing is that farmers and FarmFluencers are not just leaving this at the farming level on site. They're dipping into technology, and they're dipping into technology by having apps developed that are going to do things like track who is growing our food and what stage of maturity it might be at. And it might lend itself to each individual farmer to be able to provide you that information. How farmers are connecting with you to deliver the food is also changing in that more direct method. You're able to order and pay for it online, and you're able to retrieve it at some other location other than a grocery store. So we see that there's some interesting trends going on with the farms and with the produce that they are making for us and how we're going to be consuming it. Okay, so that's our segment on some 2022 trends and information with respect to farm, and an extension of our conversation last month around food and food costs and what some of the activities that are happening around that will change the way that we get our food. Hope you enjoyed it. Okay, as you know, I often like to feature various independent artists, a big fan of indie music. And so I'd like to introduce to you a song called Dreamin from Canadian singer-songwriter Kelly Besd, as she tackles inequality, and with this song really tries to put a spotlight on racial injustice and discrimination. And she does it with some thoughtful lyrics and a catchy beat, alongside fellow artists Jackie Art and Kay Riz. Here is Kelly Besd with Dreamin.
thoughts. Our hopeless children are taught to notice the wicked ways of the world scar on our hearts. All the people and the pressure be really tearing apart. The culture, the pride united and stay divided from parts. Detailed from skin color to spilling out all our faults. We different, that's what is special, and I it wasn't taught. Discrimination and hatred, a day-to-day operation for humans around the nation who standing for the cause. I'll stand and give it my all, yeah.
I'll never understand that way. And I've been thinking, I got a voice, what's on my brain? I think we're starting to see a change, and there will come a day. I'm dreaming about something I believe in. Said I'm dreaming that on each other we are leaning.
Dreaming. Imagine we were all united. Peaceful resolutions instead of the wars and fighting. Looking for heaven through these dark clouds. So many heavy hearts, where did we start? How? Many gotta die before we value life. And this light here is what I jot down. With this mic here, I spread peace and love to every block, town, city, or suburb. Children in the ghettos to overseas running for cover. This love is seeking you. I hope it reaches you.
No more lying, no more acting like we're trying. We're reaching out with open arms. No more pain, no more crying in the streets. We're all understanding. We got the same heartbeat. And I'm dreaming about something I believe in. Said I'm dreaming that on each other we are leaning. No goals unaccomplished, no more paying homage. We're all beautiful, I promise. This ain't my pain, I don't feel it the same. But I know in my heart we need change. Live and let live, no more hate. I'm with you, I'm with you. Say it again. I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm dreaming. I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm dreaming. I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm dreaming. I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm dreaming.
That is Kelly Besd with her new single, Dreamin', and we're looking forward to hearing from Kelly on a future podcast. Thanks for sharing that with us, Kelly, and all the best. Welcome to the Go On with Guido podcast. Back to the Four Fans Talk Sports, where everyone here is expressing their opinions as fans, just like you. There's no network obligations, no sponsor pressures, and no product placement, just pure fandom mania. I welcome back to the panel Brian from Barrie, Roland from Windsor, Clark from the Greater Detroit, Michigan, USA, and myself from the Greater Toronto area. Welcome back, everybody. How you doing? We're talking, and it's February 2022.
Hello. Yeah. Megan?
Oh, you guys are all excited. This is going to be a great session. How could you all be so quiet after the football weekend we just watched?
That was epic.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Epic. Yeah.
Is the Chiefs and Bills game going to go down almost as the greatest game ever?
I don't know one that tops it for last minute action.
Depends on who you were rooting for.
I was rooting for the Bills. I still can't believe they lost. And I feel bad for Allen. He played an exceptional game, but wow, what an exciting last 3 minutes of that game. Was just unbelievable.
It was wild. It was 25 points within the last 2 minutes of the game is unbelievable.
That was a duel. Like if you look at a real duel between two quarterbacks, that's about the best I've seen in a long time. Just head-to-head duel of two awesome quarterbacks.
That was like Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed. Middle of the ring, punch for punch. You didn't know. Like, you just didn't know what was going to happen. Like, it was, right? You, Brian, you texted us at, like, with 13 seconds, right? You guys were all texting and kind of going, who knows? There's still 13 seconds.
Here we go, yeah.
Right? And it's just like, what are you talking about? 13 seconds. It's over.
Just had that feel about it.
But
Buffalo had number one ranked defense in the league, which is it was crazy. Those last 2 minutes were just crazy.
Yeah, I think they'll be talking about giving KC too much ground just to try and protect the long pass, and that's what they did. They got the short yardage enough to get them into field goal range to tie it up. If they'd stuck to what they'd done the whole game, it might have been a different outcome. But
does this isn't some of the stuff we said we were going to talk about, but how about the overtime? The overtime, is that overtime the right format? Honestly, is it the right format? The Bills never got the ball.
They all know it going in, and yeah, you can say that they kind of lost the opportunity on the coin toss, but
yeah. Personally, I would like to see both teams have possession, at least one possession. And I mean, if KC scored the touchdown and give Buffalo a chance on offense, but I guess that's just the way they're playing it. So, I mean, you have to go by the rules, right? But I would personally like to see the other team have a chance.
How about you, Clark?
So I knew this would come up, even though we didn't have it on the agenda. And I was thinking about it, and like, we always come back to hockey. We don't always come to any sport. It comes back to hockey. So I'm going to come back to hockey here and say that, start of the season, I was at the Wings home opener against Tampa. Goes to overtime. And the Wings lose the opening faceoff. Tampa controls the puck for 2.5 straight minutes. Wings are exhausted in their own zone. Tampa scores. You could say they never got a chance to have the puck. I would rather have a face-off where it takes some skill to get the puck than a coin toss to where it's all luck to get the ball. But this happens elsewhere too, and we don't gripe about it in those cases. So I don't know. I like the idea of both teams getting the ball, but at the same time, I'm not sure I care enough to I'm not sure I've seen a solution I like more. I don't know.
Brian?
Yeah, I at least like it better than the way it used to be, where they could win an overtime game on a field goal. So I think the fact that they've made it, you got to score the major, has made it a bit tougher, because back in the old days when the teams used to win on just a field goal, that was real cheesy. And that was really, if you won the coin toss, you pretty good chance you should be able to get it down to field goal yardage, right? So I'm glad they at least changed that.
You want to know
with the kickers now, where you don't have you basically have to be in the stadium to be able to kick a field goal. It's you gain 3 yards and you're in field goal range now.
From the other side of the field, right?
I'm of the opinion that you know how the Buffalo could have got a chance at having possession on offense. They could have played defense and stopped the run, and then they would have had offense. So I don't know. This whole let's be fair to everybody, let's give everybody a chance, everybody gets a trophy. I don't know, man. Like, you want the ball, play defense, get the ball. They didn't. They didn't play defense. They couldn't stop the momentum, and they lost the game. So
yeah, I think that's fair, given that it's a major score. Yeah. I think it's fair. I'm just glad they didn't. To have lost a game like that on a cheesy field goal based on a coin flip would have been worse.
Yeah, I agree.
And I will say though, I mean, people generally come to the games to see offense. So to say, "Oh, your defense didn't stop them," is a little bit like, well, I mean, what do you really want to see in the game? You want to see more offense. So let the offense be out.
So what?
Almost had as many points as the CFL game.
Almost. So what? So Clark, let's say Buffalo runs it down and gets a touchdown. Now what? They're tied again. Keep going.
This is where I come back to. I'm not sure I have a better answer. I can see the points. like I can see why you don't want to say, like, if we're selling offense in all of these sports.
That's actually.
But like, yeah, if we're selling offense in all of them, then every team should have a chance at offense.
I got a solution. I don't know. Let's take it down to only 5 players on each side on the field. How about that? Like like a 3-on-3 format or something, or back to hockey.
Because everything comes back to hockey. Ages ago, I heard the best overtime format for hockey that I like, and I think football it could apply too, where instead of having a 5-minute overtime period, you have 5 1-minute periods, and each period you lose a player off the ice.
Oh God.
Until you're down there, if nobody is scored by the final minute, it's 1-on-1 with the goalies. And so do that with football, where like, all right, you get a drive with all your players, and then the next one you're chopping a few off.
And you'd start it off 5-on-5, and remember the old rinks would have the buzzer at 2 minutes. The old buzzer would go. So 2 minutes would play, and you could be in a scoring rush in 2 minutes. Stop the play. Each team loses a player. Now you're 4-on-4 for 2 minutes. No one scores. 3-on-3 down. One game went to 1-on-1.
That's wild. Well, I'll pen my suggestions to Gary Bettman. All right, let's move on. Okay, I gotta ask. Choice of 4. Who are people happiest to see not have a shot at a championship? Aaron Rodgers, Novak Djokavic, Tom Brady, or Bill Belichick? Roland.
Where'd you get that list from?
Are you gonna go off the board again? I'm rolling. I'm going off the board. I got my own happiest not to see win.
For me, just from from seeing what's online, and even myself, I mean, I think it's Rodgers that people are happy he's not going forward. Just everything that's happened with him during the season and the things he's said and done, and doing his own research and listening to Joe Rogan and all that stuff. I think people are happy not to see him go forward. The memes on the computer today were incredible with Rodgers. It's like, what? But they're all attacking him, and they're all glad he's not there. And I think it would be Rodgers.
Let's go to Detroit. What is Michigan? What is the USA?
I mean, as a Lions fan, I mean, I'm happy anytime the Packers lose. And when you get to have Rodgers mouthing off like he is and having him lose too, it's just a little bit extra fun. Yeah.
How about Barry? How about you, Bry?
Well, I was going to go with Rodgers, but I'll stay on board. But I'm going to go with Djokavic because. I just thought the way that whole thing played out and got so political, and you got 2 countries and all the protests, and the guy did it to himself. He didn't get vaxxed. He knew the rules, and then to find out that he falsified or wasn't straightforward on his applications and the like. He came across as a real joker in the truest sense of the word. So. I was glad that the Aussies tossed him out.
Yeah, you know what? It's tough, eh? Rodgers and Djokovic are right there for me too. I'm probably leaning on Djokovic because he just drew it out for so long. Like, he knew he was wrong, and he's in the hotel there. Then he's complaining about his conditions, and the guy's a multi-millionaire. Like, there's people who are legitimately there, suffering, and you know, he's just, you know, milking this whole thing when he doesn't have to. So it's pretty close. But here's what's more interesting, that in that list, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady just got love, because we didn't, like, it's pretty bad when like, for Djokavic
really
and Rodgers,
though,
right?
And the absence of hate is not love.
I'm just saying, it's got to be pretty bad when, you know, like, for Rodgers and Djokovic to be picked, and Brady and Belichick are not getting any hate here. So
I think with those guys, it was just enough, and enough was enough. I'm happy that Brady and Belichick aren't in there, but they didn't really do anything. Well, you know, a few years back, but lately, more timely, they haven't done anything really bad or really stupid to get them the kind of votes that Rodgers and Djokovic got. But enough's enough. Like, it's nice to see a Super Bowl without Brady in it. So
different class.
And you know what? They've been getting a lot. Actually, they've been getting a lot of love this year. You know, Brady, the GOAT. Every other thing, it's GOAT. You know, Brady, and even Belichick with that rookie QB. He came and did a fantastic job, and they had an excellent season. And you know, and people were looking at him and saying, "Boy, he did a really, really good job."
All right, we've given too much time to Bill Belichick already. Number 2, you are the new general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. What's your first move? Do you deal with the Shea Weber situation? Do you fire Ducharme and hire a new coach? Do you sell off assets? Sherratt, Petrie, Toffoli, Armia, Edmondson, Price? Or do you just do nothing? Just finish the season, do nothing, take it into the offseason? Brian.
Well, I'm going to go off book, and I'm going to choose me. If I'm the new GM of the Canadiens, my first move is I'm going to hire a good psychiatrist. I'm going to start learning French, and I'm going to stock up the medicine cabinet with some Tylenol, because it's going to be a tough go.
Are you going to do that? Are you going to do that in French, though? Right. And listen, and I'm not disparaging the whole French thing, but you know what? It's just interesting. There's a lot of articles out of Montreal right now, right, about the new GM's name. Maybe it's not French enough, is what some of the folks. I don't even know what that means anymore. Not French enough, right?
Doesn't have an accent aigu at the end of his name.
I don't know. Clark, as from the Detroit Red Wings fan base, what would you do if you had the Habs?
So I'm going through your list, and like, process of elimination here. Like, I don't think there's anything to deal with Shea Weber. I mean, he's LTI retired, and that's fine. He's never coming back, and his cap hit isn't going to hurt you, because you're going to have him on LTIR the whole time. I mean, the coach, I don't know, is it the coach's fault on this roster? But at the same time, sell off assets. I mean, like, as long as you've got Price, you can't really sell, can you? You got to at least try a little bit. And yeah, that hasn't been the case this year, but okay, he's back next year, and you're back. Do you really want to come in next year with nothing? So by default, I'm kind of doing nothing, and I hate it.
You're just finishing the season.
Maybe I go off the board too, and I refuse to learn French, and I rub it in the media's face every single time.
Wow!
and then that way I'm drawing the attention away from my players and giving them a break there.
Well, you know what's interesting is Hughes actually speaks French, and he's been in Montreal. It's just his name isn't French enough, but. All right, I got it. Just, you know, you're kind of coasting.
They should hire John LeClaire, who sounds French but isn't.
Right. That would make it fantastic, right? Rolly, good. You reaching into the Sam Pollock bag here, or what? What do you got?
No. Actually, you know, the Habs have been playing better. The last 4 or 5 games, they've gotten a lot of players back. At one point, they had like 12 regulars out of the lineup. You can't have that many regulars out of the lineup and expect to win in the NHL, man. The other teams will devour you, and that's what's been happening, right, with them. I think I would try to sell off the expiring contracts if they can, and that's what they'll probably do for draft picks. Price, I don't, unless a team really wants him, I think it's going to be really hard to move him. And try to do stuff like that and look towards next year and then dump the coach too, because I think he's just dead weight, man. The guy doesn't know what he's doing.
All right, I just said pick one thing. I didn't say give me your 5-point plan. I said just pick what your first move is here, man. But that's okay. I see you've put some additional thought into this, and maybe you're vying for the executive assistant general manager position. Roland, I would deal with the Shea Weber situation. They haven't had a captain. The coach is not an influence on the younger squad, it seems, and he's made some questionable moves. They've got no captain. He's out in British Columbia. If what Clark says, hey, he's retired, never coming back, it's time to turn the page. And I love Shea Weber. He's one of my favorite all time NHL players. Hard on the sleeve, plays hard, all that stuff. But it's been a distraction. It's been one of the big distractions, and it can't continue. They gotta get some identity after Shea Weber. Toronto Maple Leafs, sticking with hockey. Toronto Maple Leafs. What do they need? Because we're approaching February. They've lost 2 of their last 5, and they're starting to show some of those signs of spring is coming, and we're gonna kind of take it easy. But what do they need? Do they need goaltending? Because they got Jack Campbell, who has the 6th most wins in the NHL, 4th best GAA. 5th best save percentage. Do they need defense? They got the 4th best goals against. Do they need a forward, something different up front? They're currently tied for 9th with the Rangers in scoring in the league. Or do they do nothing? Do the Toronto Maple Leafs do nothing for once? Don't make a deal at the deadline. Keep the guys together. Don't disrupt the chemistry. Just do nothing. I'm gonna go to Roland. I know how much you love the Leafs. Go ahead.
I don't think they need any more offense. They got a good offensive team, and I think they need to bring in some D to help them out. That's what makes you win in the playoffs. If they can, a couple of good D-men, some big D-men, somebody that can move the puck. Their goaltending's been really good this year. Campbell's been really good. He's had a couple of off games, but he's been really good for them. I think they need some depth on the defense.
How about you?
How
about you, Clark?
Depth on defense. They should trade for Nick Leddy, and they should trade a lot for Nick Leddy. And if they really want more defense, they could throw in even more and get Danny DeKaiser.
always self-interest. I get it. What's Nick Leddy done to you?
Nothing. But if he turns into X, I'll be very happy.
All right, Toronto North. What's going on in Barrie there, Brian? What do you think?
Well, I'm not going off book, but I'm gonna go C. I think they need a forward, but I don't think they need a scoring forward. I think they need like a muscle forward, a power forward, a guy like a Milan Lucic or somebody. That's what tends to be the Leafs' downfall when they get into the spring and the playoffs, is that they just don't have the toughness, and a guy that's gonna be able to bounce other players around. So I don't think Simmons is that guy. He's a scrapper, but I don't think he's that big muscle type forward that they need. I think they thought they might be getting it in Nick Ritchie, but I'm not seeing it. So I think they need a big forward.
Maybe like somebody like Brendan Gallagher.
No, he's not a big forward. He's a little punk. He's a scrapper.
He plays big.
Yeah, but that's not what they need. They need a big guy. A guy like a Milan Lucic. Big.
No, you had your turn, Roland. What do you?
I'm just going to ask Brian. What do you think of the fact that their coach came out after their second last game and called him soft?
Yeah, no, I think that's what he was saying. Like they're a very offensive team, and they're great. They got great playmakers, but they just don't have that when the other team dictates the style of play, and that's what happens sometimes in the playoffs. Like if they met up with a Boston, and Boston plays their style of play, I think the Leafs will be in trouble again. If they get into that kind of a hard-hitting game.
So in this case, I'm going with do nothing. I'm going with do nothing, and I'm going with do nothing because they always try to do something. And And at the beginning of the season, the coach and the GM said, this is our team. Give us some time. Things are going to come around. At the beginning of the season, everybody was ready to trade everybody. Like Marner was gone. Matthews was gone. Nothing was working for Toronto. But something happened and they turned it around. And as maybe not as a Toronto Maple Leaf, but as a hockey fan, I'd like to see if you just leave them together and put faith in this group and say, all right, you guys had this type of season and you are where you are. Let's go. Like this is it. This is the final year in the 5-year plan. Let's see what happens and go from there. As opposed to trying to, we'll add this guy in the back of it. And there's a chemistry thing, trying to get the new guy integrated and let's see what they could do. You're not agreeing with it. Rolly's not agreeing. He's like, no, they need help. They need help.
No, I don't think they're going to stand still. I don't think they're going to stand still.
No, eh?
They're gonna add somebody. They're gonna have a couple pickups for the playoff starts.
Yeah, maybe they'll.
That's what I think.
Maybe they'll get Foligno back. All right, back to the NFL. So by the time we air this, I think it's going to be down to the final 2. But right now we're down to the final 4. We're down to the Rams, the 49ers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. Who would have thought?
I know.
This was the final 4 this year. Who would have thought? The Rams, the 49ers, maybe the Chiefs. I would have been, I could maybe see the Chiefs in there. But the Rams, the 49ers, the Bengals, and the Chiefs. So, who's your pick for the Super Bowl win? Because then when we meet the next time, the following month, we'll know who that is. But who's your pick for the Super Bowl? Brian.
I'm going Rams. I'm going LA. I think Stafford's gonna take them to the promised land. And Cooper Kupp, what a great name! Cooper Kupp's going to rush in for that last minute Super Bowl winning touchdown. So I'm going Rams.
Brian on the Rams. Okay, Roland.
After what I saw yesterday, I'm going with the Chiefs.
Really?
I mean, they look unstoppable. Mahomes there, it's like he does whatever he wants at will, no matter who's out there. The Rams look good too, and it'll probably be them, Chiefs and Rams in the Super Bowl. But Rams do have a good defense. They have some good players there on D. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Rolly calls the Chiefs. I'm going to let Clark go last because he's our resident. We don't even live in the United States. He's the only guy who lives in the States. But here we are talking NFL. I want to see the Chiefs win. I like Mahomes. I like the Chiefs, but I wouldn't mind if Cincinnati. I wouldn't mind to see the Bengals go all the way either. And I guess maybe because I don't really cheer for one football team ever. I'm kind of like a journeyman when it comes to the NFL. It's whoever's logo I like this week. Maybe, I don't know. Although I've got my special Kansas City hat sitting next to me here. I'm going with the Chiefs for the win in the Super Bowl. So, Clark, you take us home on this one.
So I'm hoping for a Rams Chiefs Super Bowl because then you would have both quarterbacks drafted by Detroit. After all the time that he spent in Detroit with the Lions, it's great to see Stafford actually having success in the playoffs, and so I'm rooting for him. I can't say I particularly care about the Rams in general, but I'm rooting for Stafford at this point. And I think he can do it. I think watching him carry around all the dead weight in Detroit for so long, and wow, look what he can do when there's actually something there.
Wow, nobody touched the Niners. Garoppolo, nobody touched the Niners at all. The Joe Montana era is going to continue. All right, let's see what happens, guys. So we got 2 Rams and 2 Chiefs. Let's see where that happens. So the other thing that's happened over the course of the last month, and we touched on a little bit with question 1, we've been bantering about offline about who are the top 5 sports jerks, and we said, hey, let's have a chat about that. Okay, before we hear about who we think the top 5 sports jerks are, let's hear from one of our friends of the podcast, Chaser's Juice.
Hi, I'm Richard Chase, introducing Chaser's Fresh Juice, a local business in Toronto. We've been in business for over 20 years, initially supporting our local Toronto area and now servicing all of Canada. Chasers provides fresh organic juices, ingredients including citrus zests, dehydrated garnishes, and fresh citrus peels to enhance any cocktail or recipe you can think of. We have successfully supplied restaurants, distilleries, craft breweries, and bakeries across the country. Reach out to orders@chasersjuice.com for any questions you may have. We are a customized fresh juice company, and I'm sure we can help you. Thank you.
All right, now let's get back to finding out who we think the top 5 sports jerks are. Here we go. We've been bantering about offline about who are the top 5 sports jerks, and we said, hey, let's have a chat about that. And I mean, there's a lot to pick on. It doesn't have to be from the last little while, but we already talked Djokavic. We've talked about Rodgers, but how about Kucherov? How about what's happened recently with Draisaitl and Matheson and that little exchange? That kind of went sideways maybe when it shouldn't have. But how about some other guys? Golf, you got Mickelson, an old guy, Pete Rose. Tom Brady's made the list too, right? Some history with Tom Brady. Antonio Brown, although Antonio Brown, I'm a little bit hesitant because I think there's something else going on with Antonio Brown, but what do you guys think? Who's in the top 5? Can we come away with a top 5 jerks in sports?
I'll give you my number 1, and he's not on your list.
Oh, wow.
I think the top sports jerk of all time for me is Lance Armstrong.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, that's a good call.
Ouch.
The guy propagated a lie for so long. He impacted so many other people's lives with the lie. He was confronted with it, and he stared people straight in the eye and lied to them. And then he came out like a little baby begging for forgiveness on with Oprah Winfrey, right? Like, I just thought, when you think of a jerk, some of these guys on the list I think are goofs, and I think there's a difference between a goof and a jerk. Guys that do goofy stuff, but a jerk does stuff that really impacts people, and I got to put Lance Armstrong up there as number 1.
That's a good one. It is. Although he did help a lot of people in different ways, but I get what you're saying. Wow. How about you, Claire? You got a top 5 or
so? Well, I mean, we're talking what's the difference between goof and a jerk, and all what kind of damage you do, that kind of stuff. I mean, like, okay, I could say O.J. Simpson. Okay.
Yep.
How can you say that guy's not a jerk and all that stuff? But I mean, sticking to the list a little bit here and sticking to more what they did in their capacity as an athlete. Then I really like Pete Rose on this list. This is someone that I just for the sake of it. No, I didn't. Oh wait, yeah, I did. And now forget me. The same thing as Armstrong. Just like, no, you do not get to sit there and say, and plead innocence the whole time, and then, you got me. No.
Would he have been less of a jerk if he had admitted it faster?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would have been wrong, but it would have been less of a jerk move. Right. And that's, I mean, yeah, no, don't bet on baseball, but to sit there and say, I didn't do it. Oh, yeah, I did. And own up to it right off the bat, and you look a lot different than you do spending decades defending yourself and then saying, actually, I was lying the whole time.
That's a good one, too. How about you, Ro?
Well, just going from what's on this list, and I have one I'm going to go off board as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just based on today. I listened to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar because they were interviewing him about John Stockton, who, an NBA Hall of Famer, All-Star, came out and like Rodgers and Djokavic there, anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, saying all this stuff that 150 pro athletes have died from COVID, and there's just no facts to that. And Jabbar was saying that we can't have these prominent athletes come out because people look up to them. They look, young people look up to these people and they listen to them, and they're going. He said they're coming out and they're just lying, and they're feeding this machine of conspiracy, this conspiracy machine, and they are jerks like for doing that. He said because it costs lives. It can cost lives, right? If people listen to them and they don't do the right thing. He said vaccine have been proven. It's like people go out and get vaccinated. Don't listen to these people. And these are prominent athletes that are out there doing it. Some of them Hall of Famers. Rodgers is going to be a Hall of Famer, down the road. And yeah, they're jerks for doing what they're doing right now.
Well, so Rolly goes with the hot what's trending today pick. So that's a fresh one.
Yeah.
But hey, you brought up Hall of Fame. Should they be like, does that impact Hall of Fame? What they, some of the stuff that they're kind of doing. I don't have the answer. I'm just saying, bring it up. Will it ever impact Hall of Fame?
There's an interesting one that's not Hall of Fame, Guido, but the one with respect to Rodgers, there's the debate on whether he should be the MVP. And is he the MVP? Is a guy who jeopardizes his team by not getting vaccinated or being evasive about his vaccination status, and then is that the most valuable player to the league and to his team?
Right.
I find that hard. And that's the whole debate. Do you look just at statistics and numbers of passes thrown and total yards and games won, or is it most valuable player in all aspects of the game?
Right.
And I think a lot of these guys are lacking in the other aspects of the game.
It's the eternal debate between best player and most valuable player.
Yep.
So I got one that wasn't on this list initially, and I'm going with Gary Bettman.
Who made the list?
I know. Well, it was just a suggestion. Like didn't have to be just these guys.
Did I hear what I think I heard?
Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman is a jerk. Gary Bettman's been a jerk for a long time. He was a jerk this year with the whole Kyle Beach thing, the way he presented himself, and you know what? By extension, boy, I'm not gonna get any of these people as guests ever. But all the owners who supported Gary Bettman, they're jerks too. So that rounds
I'm
out.
glad you added that.
No, that rounds out my list because
as a firm, it's not Bettman's fault; it's the owner's fault. Guy, I am glad you added that.
No, well, you know what? He's doing what he's doing, but he's given the power to do what he does too. And not many of them spoke up during that whole Kyle Beach thing. And it's not just the Kyle Beach thing. It's just everything. It's the demeanor. It's the way he represents the game when it comes to some of these topics. It's disingenuous. He could be doing so much more because, Clark, you said a couple of times, everything comes back to hockey, right? It is. It's one of the as much of a machine as the NFL is. Hockey has provided some sort of boundaries for other sports, and you look at it, and it could have been sort of the beacon on a lot of these things in a genuine sort of way, and it hasn't been. So that's my pick. It's Gary Bettman is my jerk. Although Djokavic and Rodgers, they're in my top. Djokavic is in my top 5. Rodgers is in my top 5, and I know you're surprised, Brian, that I didn't go with Kucherov, but he's in my top 5.
I put him in the goofy. I don't think he's so goofy what he did. There's one that's not on your list that I was surprised didn't make your list. I was extremely surprised, and that was Evander Kane.
I don't know what to do with Evander Kane. Evander Kane to me fits into that Antonio Brown category. There's something else there, Brian, with Evander Kane. He's jerky, but there's something else there. I think there's a need for help when it comes to Evander Kane.
Yeah. So, but to your point around the owners and other people enabling Bettman in that, does a team like Edmonton coming out and say we're gonna pick up Evander Kane, if that was true, is that aiding and abetting a jerk, or without doing something like say the Canadiens did when they took Mailloux and said, you know what? We're going to take him, but we're going to get him help, and he's not going to play right away. I don't think you were going to see that with Edmonton. I think they were prepared to sign
Throw
him
him
and
in.
play him right away.
Yep.
And so, do they become jerks? Does the owner and the GM of Edmonton, do you start putting them in that category for doing something stupid, right?
The last
Ken Holland has been a jerk.
No, the last what was that, Clark? What was that?
Ken Holland has been a jerk. As you know, a fan of the team that he let fall off so far. He's been a jerk.
You know what's interesting is that in every topic, Clark has brought this back to some Detroit team today.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
I'm making an effort, actually. I'm glad you guys noticed.
They owe you. They owe you something. You're like representing. You're totally representing.
Oh, they've owed me for a long time, but that ain't happening.
Okay, the next topic, guys. NHL All-Star Game. I don't even know why we're talking about the NHL All-Star Game these days, but should it be played? The current format, I joked around about it earlier, a little bit foreshadowing. Current format is 3-on-3, I think, right? Has it lost its luster? Did it lose its luster a long time ago? Can it even be called an All-Star Game, given that not all the All-Stars are even going to go? And then, like you had a situation like Nazem Kadri this year. I think he had to get voted in, like afterwards, right? Because of some of the different rules that they have. But what do we think about the All-Star Game? Roland?
I don't like anything about it. Anything about it.
Are you going to watch it?
I don't think it should continue the way it is. I don't think it should be played. It's a horrible setup to it. I was watching like TSN the other day, and I think it was the dog. What's his name there? I forget his name. Played for Carolina. You know what they were saying? It's like Noodles too. It's like they need to put up big money. They need to put up go back to 5-on-5, put up $1 million to the winning team, and that's the only time you'll see good hockey in the All-Star Game. They hated it as well. It's like it's just a waste of time.
Do you think $1 million is going to matter?
What are they doing?
They started there. It's like you're going to have to pay. They already make a ton of money. It's like somehow you're going to have to find money, bring in sponsors, saying this is what you're going to make. They said put up like a one of the casinos out in Vegas. It's like have them put it up, put up the cash to do this, and then maybe you'll get something good. But otherwise, it's a farce. It's a farce. That's my opinion.
Clark?
I used to love the All-Star Game. I like it was fun to watch. It was cool to see the different players playing on the same team, and like every now and then you'd see them screwing around on the bench, and it was cool and all that stuff. The jersey collection I got in my basement, my signed jerseys on the wall, most of them are All-Star jerseys because the All-Star Game was so cool. And now it's just not. And I do not know how to bring that back. And I don't know if I'm an old man yelling at a cloud about this or what, but it doesn't seem interesting. The players don't seem to care. I got Campbell Conference jersey right there. I got a Steve Yzerman one signed hanging on my wall. I don't know if it's a back in my day thing. Maybe they didn't care then, but at least they were having fun, and now they're not doing any of that. I don't think if you're going to do something, you don't need to send a representative from every team. And now that there are 32 teams, I mean, it hasn't been that long since there was a year that Detroit didn't have a representative. Hey, we didn't all, and all the Wings fans didn't disappear because no Red Wings went to the freaking All-Star game.
Yep.
Maybe you can do something different. Maybe it's just the skills competition. Who cares about the game itself since it's already a glorified skills competition going 3-on-3? I mean, maybe you just do the fun stuff and don't even have the game. Maybe you do something different. I thought it was they had something when they had the players, the captains drafting their own teams. there was something fun there. But no, we can't have that much fun because you got Phil Kessel sitting there last picked, and we can't make fun of our players. So nope, we can't do that.
Ovechkin was pretty funny during that.
That was hilarious.
It was.
Ovechkin was pretty funny though, right? That was the highlight of the whole thing, right?
Yes, it was. There was something fun there. There's not something fun there anymore. Yeah. And so no, I don't need it. I couldn't tell you the last time I actually sat down and watched the whole thing either. And maybe that's me. Maybe if I sat down and watched it, I'd be like, wow, this really is good, but I don't get that feeling.
I've watched the skills competition more than I've watched the 3-on-3. I don't watch it. I even forget. Brian, what do you think of it?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much the same as Clark. I used to love it back in the day, and it was so great, you hear the players all get announced, and it was great if you're the one or two players from your team. I don't think every team needs to be represented. I think that's losing it. The 3-on-3 is a joke. And they're not playing for anything. Don't they in baseball play for the winning team? They get home advantage or something like that, or they get home in World Series, right?
Yeah, I think they do.
Baseball, whichever side. American.
They did for a while. I thought they stopped doing that.
Well, they used to do that. I don't know but they used to. But that was, at least you're playing for something tangible, right? Or worth something. But it's lost its luster. I find it hard, just even current though, that this year, given everything that's going on in teams with all the COVID protocols and lost games and everything, that they're going ahead with an all-star game this year. I thought this would be the year to postpone it, maybe rethink it, and do something different. Maybe name an all-star team, for the card collectors and all that. Like, name who the first all-stars are and second all-stars or whatever. But as far as playing it and taking everybody to wherever it is this year to go hang out, I can't believe they're doing that.
You know what I think would be kind of...
They name the all-stars every year anyway. At the end of the season, exactly. They name the first and second team all-stars. So that doesn't have to be tied to that. But one of the things, Brian, you said was like the announcing the players and everything. And I think one of the greatest moments in the NHL was Gordie Howe getting announced at his last All-Star game.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Detroit, playing for Hartford. All the players are so-and-so representing so-and-so, whatever team. And Gordie Howe is the last player, and representing all of hockey with great distinction for over 5 decades, Gordie Howe. Yeah. No, number 9. They didn't even say his name. Really cool thing, and we don't have that stuff anymore. Again, shake my fist at a cloud.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, and we're in the top 5 jerk list. We're expecting Gary Bettman to listen to us. So that's probably not going to happen. But you know what? The Campbells and Wales jerseys, man, if you bring those, like, there's some nostalgia there for me, right? Like, I think that's when I don't know what it meant, but that's when it meant something to me. Like, there was either some more legitimacy to it. And I know there was a couple of games that were blowout games, like high scoring games too. But there was something a little bit more legitimate. The other thought I had was it's the whole All-Star weekend. Why not use that stage or that platform? We know what's been going on with some of the women's hockey and where they didn't get the proper exposure. Or why not use that stage and elevate some of your brother or sister sort of organizations to help the game of hockey, to help the messaging and all that stuff, where you integrate that somehow. I just think there's some missed opportunities that they don't do with that. But
and they have had women's players in the skills competition before. The ECHL does this year, I think it is ECHL. I think they're the ones doing it. You're right, because the AHL is not having an all-star game this year.
Right.
But the ECHL is having women's players involved. It's something they've done before. They can do again.
Right. Rolly, you wanted to make a point?
Yeah, I just want to say the players don't even want to go. They don't want to go anymore. And like Brian said earlier, in the past, they wanted to go. I remember there were times where, Gretzky, he wanted to go. He was going to play on a line with Guy Lafleur. They wanted to be together back then. Now they don't even want to go. They don't care. It's like, oh, I'd rather be home. I'd rather be resting. I don't want to play this. That's what it's come down to now.
I don't know that we're going to solve the All-Star game, but I think we're all saying we're not really watching it. Gary, we're not really watching it. All right. One more topic here. And I was going to go back to Montreal for this. And we joked around a little bit about, Jeff Gorton and Ken Hughes. Are they the right guys? Would they have considered a female GM if they hadn't gone down that, the Logan Mailloux path maybe at the draft? Was it close? Were they even thinking about it? Why did they bring back Bob Gainey to help pick a GM after, you bring him back, they help us out, give us some advice. We got rid of you a few years ago, but come back and give us some advice. How long do you keep with what you've got going on? Is Patrick Waugh going to come back in some form? Is he going to be the next coach if he didn't make the GM cut? What is the future in Montreal given all the changes that have gone on? Roland, you're the
You want to start with me?
You're the longest Habs fan among the four of us. What's your take?
They almost Kent Hughes was almost. You knew he was going to be there from the start. His name came out early, and he's good. But Gordon says they're not good friends, but they've known each other for a long, long time. So, I'm not crazy that he doesn't have any experience. That he's an agent, not a lot of experience in the league. I was hoping they would pick somebody that's been an understudy for a while somewhere else. The fellow in Tampa, maybe even Daniel Briere, who's been out there for a long time, as an understudy. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. I'm hoping for good things. I mean, we all want. The Montreal fans want good things to happen. I'm not sure. Bringing Bob Gainey back, I don't know what that was all about. What could he offer? I have no idea. I read some stories about this as well. When they brought in Bergevin, Serge Savard wanted to help out, and they kind of said to him, "You need to stay away from the team. This is the guy that won them their last cup, right? It's like." We don't want you here. We don't want you around. And he was really, really disappointed in all of that stuff. I'm hoping they do good things in Montreal, but I don't know. And a female GM, I don't think that was ever in their plans anywhere.
Brian?
I think as far as Gorton and Hughes, give him time. You know what? Let's see what he can do. Sometimes might be a bright mind. Given that he may not have the experience that others had, but give him time and see what they do. As far as bringing Patrick Roy back, I'm not so sure that's a great idea. He seems to be a bit hot at times as far as his mood and that. So I'm not so sure he'd be the best guy to bring back. And what I see in their future, they're going to pick second or third at next year's draft.
Oh, you have them losing the lottery. All right. Clark.
I'm not sure I have anything to particularly add as far as what they're going to do, but I do think it's interesting the idea of a female GM had they not gone down the Logan Mailloux path. And I think it's actually the opposite. I think that the time for them to do it as a strictly PR move. I think that it doesn't need to be a PR move, but the time to do it as a PR move would have been, hey, we drafted Logan Mailloux. And to make up for it, look, we had hired a woman as insert role here.
Right.
And they didn't do that. So that's not a, if I were in that position, I wouldn't want to be their token hire to make up for the fact that they had drafted Mailloux. Maybe they tried and it failed because everybody said no in that case. I don't know. But I could absolutely see someone floating that idea of let's do this to counteract that. And I really hate that, but it is kind of the first thing that came to my mind when you floated the idea of would they have gone that way had they not gone with Mayu? I think it's actually the opposite.
Yeah, I had that thought too. There was some rumors floating around there for a while, and I thought, well, might happen, may not happen. For me, like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen this before. They obviously didn't make the emotional decisions and go with past players or exclusively known French players or something like that. So they didn't make the emotional pick going with this. It seems that they've gone down the business road. Gorton and Hughes seem like good hockey business guys. There's just as much excitement around these guys as there was around Bergevin, though, and there's just as much excitement around Bergevin as there was around, dare I say it, Reggie Houle and Tremblay, and that was like a dark period in the history of the Canadiens. But the excitement is always. So Clark, you said last time we were talking about Steve Yzerman, and you said, my worry is always, yeah, I'm happy they brought in Steve Yzerman, but I know the day is going to come. When's Yzerman going to do something where they're not going to like Steve Yzerman, right? And I look and I go, yeah, man, it happens every 5 to 10 years. You get hired to get fired, right? The good news in the NHL is you're going to get recycled. So Bergevin is already working out in Los Angeles. He got scooped up, and I thought he was going to, because he's not as bad as he wasn't as bad as he was made out to be. When you really analyze some of the players in the position and where they were at, did they have some bad contracts? Yeah, they do. They got some bad contracts, but in the scope of the work that he did in the last, decade, he had some success, and he wasn't the worst general manager, and he got scooped up. And I just think these guys, I don't know, 5-year plan in today's NHL is unrealistic. So I do hope that if not next year, but soon after, I would like to see one emotional move made, and that is Patrick Roy. I think I'd like to see him come in and be angry and bring fire and bring passion. I don't know if he's the guy that'll go all the way with it, but he's the guy that can sort of reignite the flame a little bit, but I don't know what the end of that relationship would look like. And I don't want to see him walk off and say, I'm done with you guys again for a second time, because I think that would be the end of the all ends. So final thoughts on that, or are we good? Go Habs, go. There we go.
I just the only thought I would have on that with Roy coming, it's kind of like when Gretzky came in and coached the Phoenix, right? It was a bit of a dark mark on such a storied career to come in and you know what I mean? Like, he was an amazing player, and then he had this period of time where he was this lackluster coach.
I can't.
And I worry about the same thing would happen with Roy.
No, I can't. You know whose fault the whole Phoenix thing was? That was not Wayne Gretzky. That was Gary Bettman. The whole Phoenix fiasco was Gary Bettman. You know it. That was not Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest player of all time in the NHL. Absolutely. Arguably, I get it. Arguably, some would call it, but he really is, and he's conducted himself off the ice, in a way that no other player has, over time. Wayne Gretzky was not at fault in Phoenix. Gary Bettman was at fault in Phoenix.
I want to hear this. How was Gary Bettman at fault for Gretzky's tenure in Phoenix?
It was that whole contract, that whole noise around the team, the whole they owe him money thing. It all became such a distraction. Gary Bettman was part owner of the Phoenix, or were they Arizona? I don't know what they were. The failing
that didn't happen until after Gretzky was gone.
I think that was percolating long before Gretzky was gone. I think there was stuff going on there. Gary Bettman, I cannot give him the benefit of the doubt. I stopped giving him the benefit of the doubt a long time ago. He's almost like, I almost thought Kucherov and Bettman, man. Those are my...
Here's one for you. Just imagine Gary Bettman drinking beer with no shirt on. There's the
I was going to get all political on this, but I'm not going to.
Kucherov and Bettman, an NHL Network sitcom.
Isn't it?
Odd Couple reborn.
Right? And what's his Bettman's sidekick there with Bill Daly? That Bill Daly's been hanging on there, hoping Bettman leaves. I'm thinking I'm waiting for it to be like the old kings and queens, right? Like, I'm surprised he hasn't poisoned Bettman just to get the job he's been waiting for so long. Right?
Supposedly he doesn't want the job. Supposedly Daly doesn't want the job.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I want Daly to get it. I want to see if they boo him as much as they boo Bettman whenever he presents the Stanley Cup. Anyways, done with Gary Bettman. Well, we didn't touch on this. The Olympics are going to start on February 4th. They're going to start. Okay. They just showed athletes arriving at the Olympic Village
and already having COVID positive tests.
Those are coming. Being warned.
No, they've already had one.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, that took long. And being warned about what they can or can't say, allegedly, because they're going to be screened by the government in terms of talking about anything negative in terms of conditions but we're there and we're going to participate and we're going to put Beijing on the global stage.
I just saw those images. Clark, you might have seen them, the ones where they're arriving. The athletes are arriving and they're looking like they've arrived at a hazardous waste accident, right? There's like 15 guys full hazardous waste suits on with masks and helmets and full whites. And then you get these little athletes walking in with their duffel bag and their country's jacket on.
Right.
And a little wee mask, right?
With the lasers pointed at them to make sure that they don't have a fever. And what a joke!
Well, they've shut everything down, right? They've already shut stuff down. There's not going to be people going to these things. That should have been canceled.
I'm so torn because I you know what, I want to watch and support the Canadian athletes in general, right? But I want to support the Canadian athletes. But I'm so torn. Because I'm like, man, why are we there? Why are we there doing this, right? Yep. But the athletes are there, and for the sake of the athletes that have gone and done all that they've done to do that, I'll support the Canadian athletes. But I'm not happy about the whole Olympic thing. I think that looks like it's mutual. All right, guys, the next time we talk, we're going to have Super Bowl champions. Who knows what will happen in the NHL and what other oddities that we're going to get to talk about. Certainly we'll have some insight on what happened with the Olympics and what stories come out of that. And who knows, maybe Djokavic will have, caused another kerfuffle in another Open by then. So
in France, I don't think the French are going to let her.
Right. I think it's
if they haven't opened things up.
I think it's going that way. So, all right, guys, we will talk in a month. Thank you. As for Fans Talking Sports. All right, we've come to the part of the podcast where I usually tell you a story or provide to you an article. And today I'm going to cover an article called Forced Inequity of Remote Education. You can read the article as well on guidoparano.com. As the pandemic rages on with its latest variants, leaders repeatedly scramble to flatten or blunt the curve of infection while schools have been finding alternate ways to deliver education. The delivery of education has come in multiple forms: the traditional everyone in class, with enhanced safety measures, perceived or otherwise, the everyone at home using online tools, and the hybrid model that provides a mix of in-class and remote learners at the same time. In all cases, the terms synchronous and asynchronous have been two of the most overused words during this time. While the hybrid model provides balanced support between caution and confidence, it struggles to provide equity for students. At the core of all school decisions has been the best interest of the students. The output of those decisions simply has not lived up to the capabilities. The hybrid model isn't a failed model. The technology for the hybrid model is not a failing technology. The policymakers, implementers, and deliverers of the model have, however, forced learning inequity on students and frustration on parents. It has never been more apparent than during the Omicron period of the pandemic, where school boards implemented different versions of the model that range from temporary, permanent, and non-existent, as they struggle between those who want remote options and those by choice or no choice rely on in-class learning. The school boards in the province of Ontario provide a perfect example of inequity inside of inequity. The Dufferin-Peel School Board offered temporary remote learning in all subjects. The York Catholic District School Board offered temporary remote learning in 3 subjects: language, math, and religion. The Toronto District School Board offered no temporary remote learning. The models differ across the province. Students living in different parts of the same province had different temporary education models that were initially meant to offer some buffer past the Omicron peak. In some cases, students within the same school board accessed different education models at their local level as well. All school boards received their direction from the Ministry of Education and through Policy Program Memorandum 164 for remote learning. Although an update to this memorandum was never published online at the time of this article, school board directors may have received a soft update that suggested, for students accessing the short-term virtual learning opportunities above, the requirements of PPM 164 may not be able to be fully met. In the ambiguity of this statement lays the foundation for the interpretation of may and the catalyst for education inequity. School board directors seemingly parlayed that memo into whatever version best supported their local best interest, but maybe not the best interests of all students. As I raised concerns of inequity with one school board director and the associate director, who is also in charge of COVID planning, our exchanges went from being dismissed through policy reference and redirection to conversation that explored a variety of challenges that factored into the decision making. I can't say that any of the decisions had the best interest of all students, while equity was knowingly being sacrificed. While this discussion was taking place, I also had a paper trail that went in circles between minister offices, the Ministry of Education, school board leaders, and teachers, as each pointed to something the other should or could be doing. Discretion at each level was a common conversation calmer, and equally, at each level, it was something no one would commit to. The day before temporary hybrid kicked in, some teachers had not figured out when and how a student might participate in a test or presentation outside of those 3 courses. The feedback went from, "You won't be able to participate," to, "There may be an exception for you to log in just to do your test or presentation," to, "Maybe you can video record yourself and send it in." While the school board suggested schools might show flexibility and discretion, some principals and teachers were holding the line on policy. Remote students would not be allowed to listen in to class instruction and left to self-learn for 140 minutes out of the 300-minute learning day. The students sat confused and distressed as they were left with unanswered questions and worry. It remains unclear how this wouldn't be a mental health concern, but sometimes there's a lot of words behind a movement and not enough accountability. In a demonstration of further disregard for remote learners, as schools reopened with a mix of in-class and at-home students, one school board sent out a social media message welcoming back all the in-class learners and telling them, "You got this," while completely ignoring all the remote students. After contacting the school board director, the school board eventually deleted and reposted their message with the inclusion of remote learners. The message, "We hope our remote students have a great day of learning," came across a bit of an afterthought, probably because it was. The pinnacle of lost logic came in the first midweek when a teacher who was working remotely asked the at-home students to log off while the students in class could stay on. Given that the teacher was remote, at that point, all students were essentially online regardless of their physical location. A perfect example of where policy took precedence over the best interests of students. Equity failed completely. The proven technology has been in place for a long time now when it comes to remote learning capabilities. The challenges with the communication, attention, and balance remain the factors that require maturity at school and at home. Treating the problem seems to always be harder than treating the symptoms. There are a lot of undisputable benefits we know about in terms of mental health and social well-being of in-class learning. There are no doubts about that. There is doubt about the intention of the best interest of the students, especially remote students in this scenario. The lens that a parent wants or can apply to their child or their situation is not the debatable point, as each is free to run their household as they see fit, or within their capabilities and beliefs. It should, however, concern every single parent that the space to create this inequity was made and the precedence for doing the same in a future scenario has been set. That next scenario may or may not impact you or your children, but maybe it might, and that is often the matrix where we look back and remember when it didn't matter to you, but maybe it should have. There is forced inequity of education as adults shuffle pieces of paper around, make phone calls, and debate the benefits of one model over the other, as their own noise has perhaps greater value than the best interest of the students. Meanwhile, the students, our children, watch and wait to see if their tomorrow brings the equity that so many believe is part of the core values in the delivery of education. This is an opinion article by me, Guido Perino, the Go On With Guido podcast, the It's Not the Ref podcast, and may be heard on the Path Radio Mix online. Now, I always like to leave you with some music to end the show with, and we're going to end the show with another song from Erin Hill, harpist and singer, who was our guest today on the podcast, and she's going to perform for us Eleanor Rigby. And this song also has a new video that you can see, and I'll have the links in the podcast notes and encourage you to watch that. It's a really cool video. Erin talked about it in our discussion earlier in the podcast. So without further ado, here is Erin Hill with Eleanor Rigby.
I look at all the lonely people. I look at all the lonely people. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? Father Mackenzie, writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at him working, darning his socks in the night when there's nobody there. What does he care? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? I look at all the lonely people. I
That is Erin Hill, harpist and singer, with her rendition of Eleanor Rigby. You can hear more from Erin Hill through her website, erinhill.com. All the links will be in the podcast notes. Folks, that brings our podcast for February to conclusion. Thanks for tuning in and listening and being here. We're happy to have you. Looking forward to our next show in March. Stay safe and take care.